So now we're on example 3 from difficulty 4. Here we're looking at the expression quantity x squared plus 1 cubed plus 2 times quantity x squared plus 1 squared plus quantity x squared plus 1. And you're probably thinking, how the heck are we supposed to use the quadratic expression factoring methods when we have a cubic? And also, we have this x squared plus 1 inside parentheses as opposed to, say, having an x here, if I were to hide that, and an x here. And furthermore, I have an x in this last term here. That's unusual. So how do we deal with this situation? Well, we can see that it's almost a quadratic. It's almost a quadratic. See, if I were to factor off, say, one of these x squared plus 1s from everything, that would give me a quadratic. So let's first try that. First, rewrite everything, just so your work is consistent. So we have x squared plus 1 cubed plus 2 x squared plus 1 squared plus x squared plus 1. Okay. That is equal to, well, we're going to factor off one of these guys from each term. Okay, so when I do that, I have x squared plus 1. I like to use square brackets when I'm factoring off a big quantity. And I took 1 out of this, so how many do I have left? I have 2 left. So I have x squared plus 1 squared. I took 1 out of this, so I only have 1 x squared plus 1 left. So this gives me plus 2 times x squared plus 1. Okay? And I took the entirety of this thing out. However, there's an implicit 1 here. So it doesn't go away and become 0. In fact, when I take out this x squared plus 1, all we're left with is this plus 1 here. And it's very important that you don't write 0, you write the plus 1 when you factor out everything from a particular term. Very important. And it's a place where our students often lose lots of points. So make sure you always include that 1. Okay, so now looking at this, the thing inside the brackets is definitely a quadratic. However, it looks like we're going to need to use a substitution. We need to change out this x squared plus 1 in both the first and second term inside the brackets for some other variable so that we actually have a quadratic that we can factor. We're not going to play with this x squared plus 1 out here anymore. We're only going to deal with the stuff inside the brackets. Now, however, when I rewrite this, I definitely want to carry this along even though I'm not working on it at the moment, just so that this equality is indeed true. So, looking at this, I need to make a substitution. So we're going to let y equal x squared plus 1. So every place I see an x squared plus 1, I'm going to replace it with this y. So this gives me a y squared plus 2y plus 1. So I guess I didn't really need all this space in here, but that's okay. Okay, so now looking at this, maybe I can factor this. This looks like a normal quadratic. So I need to find two numbers that multiply to 1 and add the 2. There's only really 2 factors that go into 1, 1 and 1, or you could also use minus 1 and minus 1. However, 1 and 1 add to 2. So let's just use that. In which case, we're carrying along this x squared plus 1. You could have changed that out for y, but that's all right. We're not playing with it, so we'll just bring it along for the ride. This becomes the quantity x plus 1, sorry, y plus 1 times y plus 1. Okay, rewriting, this becomes x squared plus 1 times y plus 1 squared. Since everything is being multiplied right now, I can drop the brackets. Why? If you're curious, that's because multiplication of real numbers is associative. That's mathematical jargon for I can drop parentheses when everything's being multiplied. So this gives me x squared plus 1 times y plus 1 quantity squared. All right? So this looks completely factored at this point. However, I have x's and y's here. This only had x's up here, so we need to resubstitute here. Every place I see y, I want to replace it with my x squared plus 1. So this gives me x squared plus 1 times the quantity x squared plus 1 plus 1. Don't forget the plus 1. So basically I took this y and I replaced it with the entirety of this. Doesn't mean that this 1 goes away. We just have to carry that along with the plus 1 part. So that's squared. This simplifies a little bit, because now that I have all this addition inside here, because addition is also associative, I can drop the parentheses on the inside, so I can get x squared plus 1 times x squared plus 2. All I did was combine like terms here and include that square. All right, so at this point, I have everything in terms of x, which is exactly what we wanted. And we also have everything completely factored. There's no sum of squares formula that allows us to factor this further. So we are stuck with what we got. This is entirely factored, and if I were to FOIL all of this out and FOIL all of this out, you would get exactly the same thing. There's a lot of steps here that could have been saved. So feel free to skip steps if you see the pattern already. So like if you know how to substitute, or you don't even need to substitute to see that you indeed are working with the quadratic, you don't have to. But I think it's helpful to see all the steps. And if you did all of this on a homework assignment, you would get full credit, absolutely no doubt. So at this point, we are done with this example.